Good morning. Today I'm going to demonstrate a one color wash drawing for oil painting landscape. This is my landscape setup here. I have my palette taped down here. This is actually wax paper attached to the board. We have Frederick's canvas paper, 8x10, also just clipped up to the board here. I love this setup because if I really wanted to, I could clip a couple on here in a single session and then just walk away with the board. Very easy. So the basic setup here is we have a burnt umber. Any earth color will do. You just have to use the same color, obviously. In this case, I have a Utrecht burnt umber. This is going to be my palette cup today. I'm cleaning out my actual palette cup. And to loosen the paint a little bit while we're painting, I'm going to use odorless turpenoid. It's going to pour a little bit out here. And for the wash, it's going to be very simple. You're going to use a lot of paper towels. Maybe not a lot, but you're definitely going to use them. So I always have a whole roll on hand when I go out to paint. Sometimes I'll fold them over like this just to get my setup moving a little quicker, so that when I'm painting, I don't have to unroll them off the roll. So I might even roll up like 10 of these and just get my setup going. So they're like this. Maybe you have them in your pocket, you pull them out, and then when you're done, you just put them in a bag that's nearby. And so this is my setup. This is what I have going here. As far as the actual painting goes, I'm going to use a couple of bigger brushes here. I'm going to use this guy to get my paint on there. I'm going to use some stiff bristles. These are just rounds, number 3, I believe number 1. This is a filbert synthetic sable. Honestly, as long as you get big, medium, small, that's really what matters. I tend to go with a lot of rounds and filberts typically. But we'll see what happens here. I might pull some different brushes out. I'll typically walk out with 10 or 12 brushes, even if I wind up using 1 or 2 the entire time. All right, so the first part of this is we're going to use either a paper towel or a big brush like I have here. I'll just do the brush as one version here. I'm going to see what my paint feels like here. It's very toothpastey. If I want to loosen it up a little bit, I'm going to dip a little bit in the turpenoid. By a little bit, I mean really almost nothing. If I put this on my palette here, you can see that it's a little looser, but it's not like dripping. This would be too much. If you get a drip, like you have way too much. That's what the paper towel is for. One of my refrains in class is the paper towel is your best friend. So whoever your best friend is, give them a call and tell them they're out for the day. So we can do this. All right, now we get a little looseness going on here. And as you are working outside, trust me, this is going to evaporate pretty quickly. But you don't want the drips just for the control aspect of it. Like, you need to be in control of what's happening with your paint here. So this is actually even looser than I prefer. So I'm going to dip into my stiffer paint here, meaning right out of the pile. Oh yeah, there we go. I like this because it's got a little stickiness to it, and it's not running or dripping like this initial layer. Everyone's different, but I like to know that when I put the paint down the way that I intended, it stayed that way. Okay, another option here is you could use the paper towel to kind of get this working across. While I'm doing this, before I finish here, so you could even do this way, I could dip into my paint and my terp. Oh yeah, we could rub that in. You could also use no terp whatsoever and just rub paint in, although it can be a little tricky. Not It's an interesting move though to try that because it's just, the paint is already wet, honestly. That's too wet. I'm gonna dip into my, here we go. My stiff paint in there. So basically what you're doing is you're covering ground here so that when you start painting, you have something on here that you can work with. Brown is a very traditional color. It's not impressionist. They were kind of anti-brown. And I'm not necessarily an impressionist, so I'm just using a kind of a tried and true brown classical approach here. All right, so I have this down there now. Now, if I'm looking at our subject, and I'm gonna start making decisions here, the first big thing we're doing here, and really the whole point of the wash drawing, is to get a drawing in. Like, we need to get some version of shape and a very basic light dark statement. And when I say basic, I mean absolutely basic. So if I'm doing a landscape, this is always in my brain. I personally, I'll divide the canvas into about thirds, or maybe even about a third here, third. And what I'm doing is I'm allowing my eye to go up through this first third of the canvas, so that when I start putting in my subject matter, it's back here somewhere. Like if I'm gonna get this building in here, I would prefer that there is some space below it, because the first part of the composition is really getting the eye to go up into it. If you cram all your information down here, you're actually forcing the viewer, you're actually kind of stuffing the viewer's view. We walk and we look like this. We look up as we're going. And if I just put it back here, now it's automatically in the distance. And so many of my composition problems are just solved because I didn't really have to do much to get there. So let's do this. We have the placement of our building here. I'm not sure if I love this right now. I just put it in just to get a gauge. We have trees and things we have to fit in here. But we're gonna be really geometric here for sure. So I'm gonna actually make this smaller and move this. It felt a little clunky. All right, I kind of like this a little more already. We'll see. I'm trying to get the massing of this right. Massing is absolutely fabulous word, and in art terms, it means collecting a bunch of small units into a bigger unit. So there's a lot of information up there. Your job as a landscape painter and your job as a designer is to mass things into a beautiful arrangement. How few things can I do that get us into this picture here? So let's say I do this for this sky here. I need a little bit of this light up here to get us in to the picture. So I'm trying to mask these trees here. You're gonna see where this is going in 2 minutes. I'm gonna square this guy here. So basically this top area here, it's the light shape in the sky. So you can see I'm not even using a very I'm not using a precise brush. I'm massing, I'm chunking. Chunking is a good word. Chunking. We chunk our blobs. It might actually be a city in China for all I know. My humor is not going to get any better, by the way. So we're going to do this. I'm looking for masses and I'm looking for light dark arrangement. And I'm going to show you how much I simplify in a couple of seconds here. The light dark arrangement is going to pop out here very quickly. I'll show you how. So what I've done here is I've allowed our eye to move up here, I put my center of interest just off center here, and I want to keep my eye moving around the picture. These are things that I'm thinking while I'm working. I'm more or less ignoring this tree in the bottom here, although, you know what, that actually makes a nice lead in here. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I usually avoid this area in the composition, but this tree just brings us right in. So we're gonna let that go. There we go. And while I'm doing this, I'm always thinking, like, what is my get out move? Because we're in a landscape. I aim at about an hour for these outdoor sketches, because it just keeps you concise and it keeps you thinking in design terms. All right, so we're starting to get a little arrangement here. And the big trick here is keeping your masses with the green and the trees. A bad landscape is like, oh, this looks really beautifully abstract down here, by the way. This is kind of cool looking. The whole thing about landscape is just keeping this dark light arrangement. I just switched to a more specific brush here, and I'm going to start picking shapes out that I can make geometric dark light statements out of. So if you look at the front of the house, there's this plane here that's very light, and then it clearly has a dark plane on the side. If I look at this, the light area of the roof, it's light in the front, and then the side view still looks pretty dark. For the moment, I'm going to very gently turn that into one dark statement. And this is pretty much so that we can control how we're seeing this thing. I'm turning it into one geometric solid, which might seem counterintuitive, but for the moment we're going to do that. We have a stoop, we have the top of the stoop. So with geometric shapes, I'm going to overly geometricize this, if that's a word. Good. Light, dark. Okay, so for the moment, I'm going full-on geometric. Is there more stuff in there? Absolutely. Do I have a lot of canvas to cover really quickly? I sure do, so we're just gonna let this be what it is for the moment. All right, I'm gonna make a little connecting blob here. I'm gonna simplify this whole thing over here. You get to simplify things, guys. You get to turn them into single shapes. The less shapes you make for architectural details, the better. In a way, I picked this because it reminds me of still life, because I can just turn this into boxes and things. But the fewer, I'll give you an example here, the fewer vertical lines I have to make, the better. So I'm turning this into one thing, so I can just make some vertical lines. Because trust me, the more of these angles you try to get in, you're going to be fighting this by the end of the day. You're going to be swearing, and everyone's going to be getting in their cars to go home, and you're going to be like, oh, I got to get this building right. So yeah, just save yourself some heartache and just keep this simple. Okay, building front, building side. Beautiful. All right, got to brush down. All right, let's do this. I'm going to include this this little fluffy tree in the front because I like fluffy trees, and this actually will help me create some interest here. Again, think like a still life. Big, medium, small, different sizes. Get a little shape going. I kind of like this. Fluffy tree, fluffy tree. Alrighty. Yeah, and again, I'm more or less thinking about this as a basic dark light. So we have the front of the tree, we have the side, front, side. We have grass coming up here. I'm not doing anything with the path yet. I might. We'll see. But for the moment, just like in studio practice, for the trees, I want to think light and dark. So we do the same thing in the model in the studio. We do the same thing with still life. We do the same thing with if I was drawing a cat, dog, chicken, whatever it is. I'm looking for how does this dark light arrangement work. So now I have this beautiful fluffy tree right here. I simplified this guy in the top here. And really what we're doing is we're connecting our shapes. So if you notice, the shape of my shadow should match more or less what the shape of the tree is. Now, are there smaller parts? Absolutely. And I'm not faking anything, but I am turning it into a mass that I can control a little bit. So these little blobs up here, they are about this shape, and then they get big, medium, small. And you know, trees are bigger on the bottom, then they go to a medium shapes, then they go to small shapes. Like leaves are actually smaller versions of the bigger shapes. If you want to think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense. And now I have a pattern that I can control. So I have a dark light shape, and many shapes make a pattern. And this is just straight design. So if we're doing this, turning this into some blobs that I can manipulate a little bit. All right, so we have this guy up here. I was reluctant to bring this up to the top, but it might actually make sense if this goes off a little bit. We'll see. I can always take it back down again. And we're gonna have to keep moving because I don't want to get stuck on any particular spot here. So, if you need to, you're not sure what to do, just flatten the thing out and turn it into one shape. It might seem counterintuitive at first, and if you're not good at massing or if you're overly attentive to details, this might seem like sacrilege, but it isn't. You're actually sacrificing a little bit in the detail in the beginning for the whole, because your job as a designer is to create the whole, not to get caught up in fussy details. If you want to do fussy details, do a long painting, get a photo, and knock yourself out, spend 80 hours on it. There's a landscape. This is a quick landscape. We don't have the luxury of that. So if I look at this tree in here, oh my God, this is beautiful. There's these really wonderful shapes here I can pick out of my dark light arrangement. So you need to have like two minds right now. One is I'm putting these shapes in, but I'm doing this with my eye. Does it look good? Does it flow? Does it connect? So good landscape is gloriously abstract. Like it's just beautifully abstract. And you have a lot of options, and you know, in the beginning, you know, if this is your beginning, you're just going to be trying to get information in. But if you think about this as like a pen and ink drawing, or like a very simple cartoon, it'll be a little easier, and your eye will be able to move around this information a little easier. Okay, that's doing that. Okay, I'm kind of liking how this feels right now. I like how my eye's moving around. We have these fluffy shapes, and we have the geometric ones. My eye's moving around. Let's go over to this area. This area was this area kind of frightens me a little bit. So while you're doing this, you need to kind of call things like this tree is one unit. This is a unit. There's a lot of tiny units in here, and for the sake of our sanity here, I'm going to turn this back unit into a unit, and this is where squinting is absolutely going to help you. And squinting is basically like you squint your eyes a little bit, like the light is in them, or like the sun is in them. Someone's shining a flashlight and you want to be able to see. Squinting actually helps you to just see the blobs of things a little easier. So if I do this over here, I see there's this kind of cut shape and this little kind of dancing light dark pattern. So I'm gonna get a little bit of dark in here. Good. All right, I'm gonna put this tree down here because abstractly this thing actually helps us. It does something with this area here, and it's a beautiful shape, and it gives us something else to command this space over here. Okay, so again, I'm trying to get our eye to move across this area better. If you see that what I just did there, it actually frames it nicely, and it keeps us in this beautiful zone here. So I'm going to pull a couple of lights out of this. So I want you to kind of get this into your noggin here, is that you need just enough to tell us what it is. We're not reporting. We're not recording everything for posterity here. This is us just trying to get a little flavor of what this thing is. So this is just enough to tell me this is shadow here, just enough tree here to keep my eye moving up. All I'm doing is looking for pattern. So if I'm looking at this as a light dark arrangement, it now moves around really nicely. Is it the best painting in the entire world? I don't know, probably not, but it's enough for a demo, it's enough to tell us kind of what to do. And if I was going to leave this as a wash drawing, I'm getting close to the point where I might actually have just enough to have like a rudimentary geometric wash drawing here. So just a note on trees, bushes, all of the everything in that category is they're all thicker on the bottom and smaller on the top. So that means when you draw them, you can't have your tree trunk is this big up here and is the same as it is down here. I'm making it thicker and then we're going to taper into something thinner. So up here, this looks a little suspect. I have to do some, oh, there we go. You have to taper it. Even if it isn't much to your eye, look for it and force it a little bit, because your job is to tell the viewer something that's happening that makes sense. Like instantly we know it's a tree, it tapers, it's getting thinner and lighter up there. This is good, it makes our job easier. So there's some fluffy kind of branches going on up here with this tree, and I'm going to abstractly just start getting some of these blobs in here. But we need a little bit of this sky shape. We do not need every branch up here. It's not your job to tell us about every branch and every leaf. It is your job to fool the viewer into believing that they're up there. So I'm gonna do the same type of strokes up here that I just did for that branch, the dark against the sky. But I'm gonna do them now. I'm gonna pull them out with the light area. The entire point of your painting the landscape is to give people an impression, and this is not an impressionistic painting, but to give them a brief, like, synopsis, if you will, just to not confuse the impressionist. This isn't impressionistically stylistically, but you're simplifying it in this way that we can just look at this thing really easily, really quickly. A little idea or notion of what it is. All right, so now our eye moves through here, it comes down. Okay, this is not bad. And if you notice, we almost don't notice that there's no differentiation with the branches back here now with this flat blob I put in, because this tree and this kind of helped our eye move along. This is what we want. We want to find a path through our abstract blob of trees and things. So there's a couple things I want to take care of and then call this done for the moment. One is I want to do a couple marks here just to indicate that there's something back here. I want to do something with this, and I want to do just enough with the building to let us know that it's not a geometric block, but it's an actual house or something. Okay, so our eye moves through here. Like, how do we? And now I can let my brush dance a little bit. I've been very kind of analytical about this, but I can kind of let our eye go through here. Because the trees, like when you're combining all the trees together, this is what kills people with landscape, is that there's all these blobs that just go together. And if you're just painting green and you're trying to get it all, like, it's not going to work because it's just too much stuff, right? So we get a little dance going through here now. I don't love this, but I'm just trying to get it to work. I wish I did love it, but here we go. This is the work of the painting, right? We do it and we try, even if we are not getting a perfect result. But I just want this to work enough, and it just has to function as a start here. So up here, I want to hit at one topic really quickly. It's the idea of keyhole shapes, and up here I'm going to demonstrate what that is. The keyhole shape is where the light shines through the trees, because up here there's these kind of breaks in the trees, and the light shines through, and your job is to get those keyhole shapes in. And when you do it, your keyhole shapes can usually never be as dark as the sky. So over here, I actually intended these to be light areas of the tree itself. So light branches, dark branches. Here, because there's a lot of this broken tree thing, I'm just using this as a way to describe. these are supposed to be light areas between things. So these are good for pattern. They're really good for pattern. So if I have the lighter, fluffier branches that I'm kind of breaking this up with, then I can maybe use some of these keyhole shapes. And what this does is it allows the light to shine through, and it just gives a necessary. Let's do one here because I see there's one in the picture there. Yeah, it just lets the light break through. Otherwise, it would just be a really thick blob of too much sky. So as we go here, you might or you're definitely going to, like, I'm gonna call this a keyhole shape, and then we'll do another one here, like. And what this is just the sky breaking through this mask. What this does now is it creates like a flow. When we put color in, or if this was a grisaille and I was doing black and white paint that was a little thicker, this would make more sense. We're going to return to this concept later, by the way. This isn't going anywhere. But we now have a light flow that goes through things. There a little bit of caution needs to be had here. I'm going to hit the building with a couple of marks. And I need just enough to let us know it's a building. So I'm going to revisit this thing that I kind of ignored earlier. I'm going to break into this value for this, the roof here on the side. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, it still looks like a geometric blob, so I'm going to give just enough detail here, and I'm trying to figure out what that's going to be without going crazy here. We are not architecturally rendering a building. I want you to really let that sink in. This is not an architectural exact thing of a building. Nobody cares. If you really want to do that, this isn't the place to do it. Take a photo, get a pencil drawing, do a long watercolor or something that's exact. This isn't the place for it unless you're an expert at it. Even then, if you got an hour or two, don't try to get the building exact. It's just not going to happen unless you're a seasoned pro. So, but if you were, you probably wouldn't be watching this video because this is a basic video on putting a wash in. I'm talking right now as if you haven't painted before. Okay. Just enough to let us know this is a building. I'm going to try to get a door in here. So I got vertical, horizontal top matches, geometric. Okay, that might just be enough. And I'm going to try to, this might be ambitious here, but I'm going to try to get a window into horizontal, vertical, horizontal matches the bottom, matches the implication on the top. Yeah, and if you're not strong with perspective, please do less. Just do less, because you're going to be fighting it, and it won't be fun. If you want to draw buildings better and you want to go out and have a little more confidence before you do this, don't test your building drawing ability here. Go home and do drawing, and then use what you learned at home here. All right, I'm going to ghost a little window in here too. Make that window a little smaller so we get a little variation in these sizes. Okay, that is just enough.